Cage Minds Uncensored. I'm your host, Micah Frankel. Got a big show lined up for you guys this week. Shout out to Mac10, Edwin Ruiz. Mac10, check him out on Facebook. MMACK10. I love my gear, the shirts, the hats. Check him out. Show him some love on social media. Show him some support. Like Mac10 supports combat sports athletes everywhere. We got a lot to talk about this week. There's some LFA, some Invicta, some UFC from last weekend, leading us into a LFA Bellator UFC weekend ahead of us. Got two guests this week, both going to be in action this weekend in Los Angeles at the Forum. Bellator 192, going to be joined this week, getting to talk with Henry Corrales and JJoey DAvis. Before we get to those great interviews, let's talk about last weekend. 2018 gets kicked off with LFA 30. Was in Costa Mesa, California. You had a couple exciting moments on the card. I mean, the night started off with Blake Troop and a TKO 11 seconds in. You play with leg locks, you get punched in the face, a big win for Troop. You had Christian Aguilera just smelling blood the moment he got in the cage with Maicon Mendoza. Maicon gets knocked out in 30 seconds. Christian Aguilera, it was two big overhand rights doing the damage. You had Jackson Winkfighter, Jordan Wright staying undefeated. He hurt Craig Wilkerson with a stinging right hand to the temple. Hurts Wilkerson again when Wilkerson shot in, eating an uppercut. Wright takes the back, finds the rear naked choke after a couple adjustments. In the main event, Curtis Millender. Last year, he had the 2017, I believe, knockout of the year in LFA with a big right head kick. He does it again, this time in the second round against Nick Barnes. Flicks out the right hand, follows it up with the right high kick. Was trying to get that right high kick, was setting it up several different ways. Finally, Barnes didn't see it, gets blasted. Curtis Millender, the young man, has been heralded as a prospect, has been up and down, had a stint with Bellator, has now found his momentum. 13-3 heading into this fight, so now 14-3, I believe, a 4-fight win streak. I would love to see Curtis Millender in that next level, but the UFC welterweight division is very, very stacked, very, very competitive. I don't know if we can push everybody up to that division right away. So my thought, I truly believe that now this has cemented Millender as the number one contender to take on undefeated MMA lab product, the LFA welterweight champion, James Nakashima. Wonder if LFA can make that fight, or if one of these guys does get called to a Bellator, to the UFC, gets called to another promotion. But right now, I think it's a bona fide main event, a big fight for LFA that needs to be made. I would love to see Curtis Millender against Nakashima. Nakashima has been able to rely a lot on his grappling, pointed with his hands, but we've seen nothing but aggression, and there is a sturdy takedown defense and wrestling background out of Millender. I believe that would be an exciting fight. For your LFA 30 results, go to cageminds.com. Also this weekend, talking about what we have up at cageminds.com, is we have the results from Invicta FC 27, which took place on UFC Fight Pass. The women have made an impact in the octagon. Obviously this year, the newest division is the flyweight division, and I really do believe that sooner or later, Vanessa Porto will be a member of that division. Vanessa keeps on rolling, a first-round rear naked choke in the co-main event. I believe she's being overlooked by the UFC and definitely needs to get that call to the octagon. Talking about the UFC's flyweight division, go to cageminds.com if you haven't already, because I have an interview up, exclusive interview at FinitHB with Nico Montano, with the UFC Women's Flyweight Champion of the World. I do talk to her, so check out that video. It's at the YouTube channel. You can find it on cageminds.com. Not to mention, looking ahead to next weekend, there is LFA 31 out in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll talk about that coming up. But while you're at cageminds.com, don't forget to check out my interview with fit NHB's Roman Alcantar making his LFA debut against Matthew Franco, who was actually the last victim of Curtis Millender. But back on topic, Invicta FC 27. Other takeaways. The atomweight division seems to be perfect for Ashley Cummins. She's really being able to implement her style and charging towards getting an opportunity at Ayaka Hamasaka and that Invicta FC title. The main event, Sarah Kaufman makes it 2 in a row since parting ways with the UFC. She was able to implement her game plan. She moved forward, she boxed, she put on big pressure, she landed hard shots, and she broke down Pannie Kianzad, taking a unanimous decision. A fine effort from Kaufman. Kianzad came to Invicta as a top prospect, undefeated, and she has had nothing but, tough competition in front of her. She's had some losses, 3 straight losses after a win over now UFC fighter, but down in weight class at flyweight, Jessica Rose Clark. 3 losses in a row for Kianzad. That comes against Tanya Evinger, Raquel Paului, and Sarah Kaufman. Nothing to scoff out there. Learning right now, learning on the job is what Kianzad has to realize she's doing. She's going up against the best of the best. Hopefully we see her in a more favorable, I'd say, matchup in her next fight where she's not taking on such a veteran. So, Invicta FC 27, that was Saturday night. Check out those results up at cageminds.com. We had a lot of football this weekend, and then to cap off the weekend, you had some UFC in St. Louis, UFC Fight Night 124. Some big takeaways. We know that being on top matters, and it mattered a lot. Mads Burnell takes a decision from Mike Santiago. Santiago has not fared well in the UFC since coming off of the Contender Series. Really showing bigger improvements in her game. JJ Aldridge puts together a full performance, moving forward with her striking, dictating the pace, even hitting some takedowns in defeating Danielle Taylor. Jessica I out-wrestles Colleen Ferreira to get a split decision win, which I thought should have been unanimous. Ho Kang got knocked around, beat around in the first round by Guido Canati. They hit the ground, and Kang slaps in a triangle, forcing the tappage, the stoppage, forcing the submission, and Canati demoralized, honestly, after having really put together a good performance in the first round, ends up getting submitted at the end of the round. Marco Polo Reyes stood and traded with Matt Farva, found the chin, and gets the knockout in 1 minute. Farva ate a pair of lefts that had him stunned, and then a pair of rights finishes the fight off. A big win for Polo Reyes. The prelims finished out with James Krause being able to find his takedowns and getting on top of Alex White, who was throwing heaters, throwing fastballs, and was landing on Krause, but was unable to stay off his back. When the fight was erect, it was advantage White, but the veteran James Krause gets the takedowns and does what he needed to do. Move on to the main card. Darren Elkins against Michael Johnson, and the comeback kid does it once again. Johnson, the question, how would he look at 145 pounds? He looked marvelous in the first round. He found his range and was lighting up Elkins with shots. The left hand was money. You saw the best striking of Michael Johnson. And then you saw a kick get caught in the second round. They hit the ground. And in trying to scramble back to his feet, Elkins takes Johnson's back, finds the rear naked choke. A huge win, now 6 straight at 145 pounds for Darren Elkins. A grinder from Indiana who's not pretty, not elegant on the mic, not the kind of guy the UFC would want to put over because he's not a marketing machine, but 6 in a row, Darren Elkins doing work in the featherweight division. Respect that man. Very happy I picked him on that fight. Next up, you had Kamaru Usman, who out-wrestled Emil Mech for 3 rounds, gone on top when he needed to, held Mech down, did bust Mech open with elbows in the second round, retaliating from Mech having been on bottom, busting open. Johnson, UFC President Dana White, not thrilled with the performance. Usman would later say that he took this fight and kept the fight and did not pull out of the fight, though dealing with a plethora of injuries, only came in at 30%. A dominant performance from Usman, who does what he does. You may not love it. You may just want guys to stand and trade. But wrestling is a huge incorporative part of this game. From Chael Sonnen to John Fitch to GSP to Daniel Cormier, you've wanted wrestlers to stand and trade. When they don't want to, they don't do it. Kamaru Usman continue a win streak. Another welterweight to be reckoning with in a division that's highly interesting when you got guys like Darren Till, you got Colby Covington, you got Santiago Ponzinibbio, you got Usman coming up, a ton of challenges. Wonder Boy needs to be more in action, and we need a clear update on Tyrone Woodley and his shoulder. Let's get this division going again. I believe that there is young talent and that the UFC needs to be playing it up. The fighters, as we expect, do not need to be promoting themselves because they fight for a promoter. Dana White applied for a boxing promoter's license. You know you are the promoter. You're not just Roger Goodell running the league. You need to promote these fighters because you are the promoter. Paint your product in a positive light, like the Spin Doctors on UFC Tonight tried to. Not happy with the way Dana White downplayed Kamaru Usman's performance because Dana White is not a fan of wrestling. Some calling it upset, some saw it coming. Jessica Rose Clark defeats Paige Van Zandt by unanimous decision, got the fight to the ground in the first and second rounds. In the second round, Van Zandt threw a spinning back fist, and it would prove later from medical x-rays and what Van Zandt posted online. Van Zandt broke her right arm with the spinning back fist in the second round. Round 3, 2 judges scored it for Van Zandt, who was able to work off her jab, use her kicks, and keep the fight standing. Jessica Rose Clark, 2-0 in the flyweight division. Again, respect this lady. Coming off of some hardship, her house being broken into, her pet cat being murdered. Nothing but respect for the warrior who stepped in the cage and performed still with all that personal stuff going on. Reebok, I saw that Rose Clark is on Twitter begging, and fuck you, Reebok. Hopefully you do send her some gear. All of her training stuff was taken, her shoes was taken when her home was robbed. Hopefully Reebok can do the right thing, step up and support one of their sponsored fighters. Jessica Rose Clark. Right now we're talking about the women who we'd like to see challenge for the flyweight title next. I don't know what's going on with Sijara Eubanks and the UFC, but Rose Clark right now has the most official wins in the 125-pound division with 2. It's something to build on. At least we're keeping that division going. The main event, Jeremy Stephens, Doho Choi, it was what it was, and I'm kind of surprised it ended when it did. I was for sure thinking this fight would go to the decision because we've seen these guys both engage in fight of the year type wars, brawls, be able to take what seemed like a sledgehammer over the head. Early on, Stephens was testing the waters. Wasn't being overtly aggressive, was moving in, was moving out. When he would move out, Joho Choi was able to capitalize. A very good leg kick attack from Choi in the first round, who also was able to bloody up the nose of Stephens. In the second round, Stephens did have his moments in the first round. His own leg kicks was going for his right hand, wasn't as assertive. In the second round, foot on the gas, Stephens was all forward movement, was wailing away with his kicks, and was coming with big, heavy right hands. Cracks Choi on the exit while Choi is trying to back out to his left. The right hand spins Choi around, knocks him down. Stephens throws the legs to the side, jumps in with a big right hand, ground and pound to the finish with some elbows. Some would call it a controversial stoppage, maybe an early stoppage. I wait usually to see how the fighter reacts. It seems like Choi accepted his fate, accepted that the fight was over, was not overtly emotional at the referee. I don't know if that's just his demeanor and manner. I have not heard him and his team. I heard more media people unhappy with the stoppage. So it's the fighter that I look for, and I'll go with it was a good stoppage. Jeremy Stephens picks up a win in a UFC main event. Something good to see. Stephens, the little heathen, one of the staples of the UFC, his 27th fight inside of the octagon, and it's good to see him get a victory. It was good to see the UFC, even though it was the kind of matchup we were expecting, bombs being dropped, it was the main event where we're talking about the number 13 and number 9 guys in the division headlined this fight. So it's showing that you don't have to be, as Dana White was trying to say, top 10, top 5 to be a superstar. You can be known through the fight community and respected for the work you put in and the kind of fights you bring, making Jeremy Stephens must-see TV, making him that kind of main event fighter. You want to look for what's next coming up. Obviously, with number 3 ranked Brian Ortega, their cage side, and what the UFC implemented on the post-fight show, it looked like the UFC kind of already had the path determined for the victor of this fight. That Brian Ortega would be that guy. You look at the rankings, Holloway, Edgar, title fight, that's happening. Ortega is now that next guy in there, because before, when you had Aldo, Edgar, Swanson's names in that mix, Ortega's the one that took Swanson out of that mix. So you got to respect him for being like, well, I'm in the title mix. That's pretty far down for me to look. Let's look at what's in between Ortega and Stephens going into the night. You got Yair Rodriguez. You got Chun Jung Sung. You got Ricardo Lamas. You got Josh Emmett. It's kind of funny that they're trying to preordain Ortega versus Stephens when Stephens is down there at number 9, coming off of a win over number 13. I don't know how much you jump up in the rankings, but you're looking at guys that are ahead of him in the rankings, like Ricardo Lamas and Cub Swanson, that are coming off of losses. You want me to talk about what's next for Jeremy Stephens? I'd like to see him versus Chung Jung Sung versus the Korean Zombie. Also, it would be quite favorable even to throw Josh Emmett in there with Stephens. Emmett's ranked number 4 in the division, having never fought in the division. What I mean is he has never made 146 or 145 pounds. He has never weighed in for the division, but he fought against, at that time, number 4 ranked Ricardo Lamas in a catchweight bout, defeats Lamas, and now has jumped up in the rankings. That's why the rankings are a little screwy. It's not like Emmett made weight. So he's not even officially a part of this division. Maybe that's something for Ortega. You can put him against Emmett because, oh look, this guy beat Lamas. That makes him a perennial contender. Maybe you tell Emmett, no, you need to fight a Stephens who's actually made weight and went through the vigors of this division. I'd still like to hear where the Korean Zombie is in all of this, as long as we're talking about what's next for Ortega. I think those 4 guys have some business to work out. Let me say those names again. Jeremy Stephens, Josh Emmett, Brian Ortega, and Chung Jung Sung. Right there, 2 fights to make between those 4 guys. That's what the UFC should be doing. But I don't know if I automatically go to Stephens versus Ortega, even though that is a main event caliber Fight Night fight, which I think the UFC is trying to bait them into. We had a fun weekend of fights from, like I said, LFA to Invicta to the UFC, which again leaves some interesting questions about who's going where. And as long as we're talking about this featherweight mix of guys, Darren Elkins gets no respect. Was about to be the featured fight on the prelims, and he's actually ranked in between Doho Choi and Jeremy Stephens. So if Jeremy Stephens at 9 is a main eventer, what about Darren Elkins, Jeremy Stephens, 9 versus 10? That could be an interesting one. Where does the UFC bring back Yair Rodriguez? Maybe against Ricardo Lamas. That could sound like an interesting fight. Cub Swanson, Jose Aldo. Is it time to do that? I love the featherweight division. So much youth coming in. And a Miles Jury who's also coming off of a big win, who could throw his name into the mix between these team alpha male and other Alliance MMA fighters that are crowding this featherweight division that is literally right now dominated almost by a California kind of base, it seems like, when you're talking about Emmett, Swanson, Stevenson, Elkins, Choi, and Jury all training on that coast in the top 15. Interesting stuff. Love that featherweight division. Think it's time we get to an interview and start talking about what's coming up this week, including right now joining me this week we have Bellator 192's Henry Corrales. Thank you for the time, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's this camp been going, preparing for Georgie Katahanian?
Oh, it's been going great. Georgie's a tough veteran with a lot of experience, so it's really brought the best of me during this camp.
Tough veteran with a lot of experience. Everyone's seen the video Jimmy Smith putting out there. You've been through a murderer's row, 5 notable opponents and 5 experiences, this going 6 for 6. What have you thought of this Bellator experience you're having?
It's been a good time, dude. It's been a great learning experience. I fought some tough guys, and a couple of them took me to school, and I took my notes, went to the drawing board, and I've come back a stronger fighter and martial artist. I'm on a 2-fight win streak since changing camps to the MMA lab after a couple losses. So everything's feeling good right now.
You brought it up. Tell us about that move. How you first decided to step out of your comfort zone and make that move, and what it's been like there at the MMA lab.
Oh, it's amazing, man. You got Benson Henderson here, John Crouch, and striking coach Eddie Cha. And it's a room full of studs every time you step on the mat. So it's a great time there.
Well, first part of that question then, how did you decide on the MMA lab? How did you decide to leave California and go train in Arizona?
Yeah, so my lady at the time, she started a doctoral program out here at ASU. And so I came out here, I checked the gym out, I was looking for a change, and the gym just was so, everything you would need. It's like a one-stop shop, everything under one roof, a lot different from California. And then at the same time, they started scouting my head coach from California, Eddie Cha. They offered him a position to be the head coach at the MMA lab. And I was like, dude, if you're going, I'm going too. So he took off, took the position, and I came with him and my lady. So it's pretty cool how everything worked out.
That's awesome. So has there been any real differences then for you still working under the same head coach, but just more great talent to work with on the mat?
Yeah, just more talent. And these guys here, dude, they're training hard year round. Like, there's no off season for them. These guys, there's always some young studs on the mat, some legit wrestlers, just a bunch of dudes with a bunch of credentials, and it's pretty cool. I just got to go to one gym in California. I had to go do my striking here. I had to go do my grappling there, my strength conditioning here. So it just works out. There's more focus out here, and yeah.
So what's it been like getting used to the living in Arizona, changing from the beach life of California?
I don't know. It hasn't really, because I got my lady here, and I still go back home a bunch because I'm only like a 5-hour drive away. So it hasn't really been too different, There's a little bit more seclusion, and what comes with that is focus. So it's just been such a great move for me.
Coming off of the last fight with Nodlahead, I heard you say that you saw there was a couple points in there where you thought you could have found a finish. You have a nearly 80% finishing rate for your career. So how much of a priority is it for you now going forward to get back to those finishing ways?
Yeah, that's definitely the number one focus in this game. Especially with the judging and at the end of the day, what the fans want to see. I'm an entertainer. I'm definitely a martial artist first, but at the end of the day, I want to get that finish in a entertaining fashion. And so Sorry, what was the question again? My bad.
How much are you prioritizing getting a finish in this one?
Yeah, that's number one priority. You want it to be a definite victory, you know?
Do you feel that being you're on a win streak, I believe a guy that you want to rematch, Emmanuel Sanchez, AJ McKee's name, do you feel that a win, but you need to do it in spectacular fashion to really get in the title hunt?
Yeah, and that's another thing that's the goal, you know. I'm back fighting on the main card, so this is a big fight, and it'll put me in a really good position that I'm excited for.
You said in training for Georgie that this has brought out some of the best of you. So what kind of fight are you expecting that we're going to see come Bellator 192?
Well, when it comes to my style, I can only worry about what I'm going to do, and I bring the action. I'm here to fight, plain and simple.
We've noticed that. Saw in the Noad Lahet fight, it really looked like you were able to tire him out in the in-between moments. In moments where he thought you guys were going to break apart, you kind of brought the action more, continued to strike, and really put the stamp on the rounds, I thought, with those strikes in the in-between moments. How do you push forward when other guys kind of look to take those breaks sometimes?
Oh, thank you. Well, for me, it's just my style. Just what comes naturally. It's just what I do, and so I make sure I train my ass off to complement that style. You know what I mean? And make sure I'm just prepared to bring it.
Has there been any actual changes with the training now? You said it's been easier not having to drive to all the different camps. Has there been any other changes with now being in Arizona from California?
Oh, yeah, big time. And not only just with the training, but just with me as a person. You know, I'm maturing more. I'm developing a better fight IQ. When I first got signed to Bellator, I was 12-0, 10 finishes. And I just didn't give a fuck. You know, I'm here. My whole mentality was, I'm going to fucking flip these tires. I'm going to fucking max out on bench. I'm going to fucking spar whoever shows up. I'm going to fucking grapple my ass off. And I wasn't too concerned with being a martial artist. I was just a straight brute fighter. And so, you know, I got humbled. You know, I got taught some lessons by some of my opponents. And, you know, it's helped my evolution as a martial artist, I think.
Was that a process mentally going from fighter to martial artist to embracing martial arts?
It was, yeah. It was. And it's just such a fun ride, and I'm enjoying my career that much more now. It's just having a good time, you know, savoring every second of it.
Well, what made that mental change? What was it that made you kind of savor this journey more?
Well, for me, you know, I learned things the hard way, you know, and losing for me was it was pretty tough. So, but you know, that adversity just brought out the best in me. You know, it just took me back to the drawing board and made me just forced me to evolve. And you know, all my energy went from, you know, this shit can't be happening, and again. So yeah, here I am.
A lot of learning.
New team, and I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was letting you go. Sorry, I was about to cut you off. Accidentally.
Oh, it's cool. I'm done. Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, they were learning experiences. Were you able to take away positives when you look back on the Strauss, the Pitbull fights? These high level, going to the top of the division and taking on those guys?
Yeah, you know, I showed up to the Strauss fight with my fighter spirit, and I was in there till the very end, you know, and just a little positive was I was just too reckless, and with such a high-level fighter, it can't always work out in my favor. And with the Sanchez fight, you know, it was a split decision loss, which was very close, and personally, I think I won that fight. But the first round, he knocked out 6 of my teeth with the knee. And, you know, I fought through that adversity, so that taught me a lot, you know, what I could fight through. And then the Pitbull fight was, what I learned was that I could just show up and fight. one of the best in the world on 13 days notice. And I held my own until, again, the crafty veteran just caught me slipping and guillotined me. So it's just, they were losses, but at the same time, there's something to take away from that.
I also know that you've been getting into a lot of reading and doing the mental side of the game, looking at that. So what have been some new thoughts that you've been having looking at the fight game?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, just being more of a martial artist, and not so much of always having to just be a greedy fighter, and just being more of a technician and yeah.
How have you been able to incorporate it? Was it kind of a process, or was this something that just kind of a realization?
Yeah, a little bit of both, It's just, slow process, just learning as I go and working at it and seeing the results of, using a little bit more footwork and, just little things with training and what I do in between fights and stuff like that. And just constantly, just at the end of the day, just keeping it simple and just constantly striving to be a better athlete, be a better fighter, be a better martial artist, be a better person,
I hear that from a lot of guys when I talk to them. The striving to be a better person. And when you started getting into the fight game, did you think that was going to become an internal goal of yourself?
No, I didn't. And what I didn't realize was that in this fight game, that how all these little fight metaphors, how they translate into my personal life. And then I'm lucky enough to recognize that, and it's changed my life, dude, and it's just been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's awesome. Going back to the fight, you head in there against another veteran, Georgi Kadahanian. What's your advantages, and what do you do to get the win against another tough veteran?
Just the way I see any fight playing out, against any 145er, is I'm gonna bring the action, dude. I'm gonna come forward, in a technical fashion, and mix things up and just put it on them.
Henry Corrales, again, sir, thank you for the time this week.
Thank you for having me.
Great getting to talk to Henry Corrales, Bellator 192. We'll talk about that in a moment. Saturday night, the head-to-head matchup, Bellator and the UFC. But we also have action Friday night to talk about. Access TV, I'll be tuning in. LFA 31. Can't wait to see this. You have Casey Kenny from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, undefeated in action. You have Roman Alcantar from Fit NHB, the Mexican national, 4 wins by submission, a karate stance, taking on the Australian who's been living in Arizona, training at the Arizona Combat Sports Academy with the Lawley brothers. That's Matthew Franco, who's 11-3, 6 knockouts, 3 submissions, 2 decisions, a technical boxer. You would think that right now the kicking game is going to be more in Roman's arsenal. I think Franco, I thought he had the striking edge against Melender. That turned out to not be the case. If he's able to dictate, he can have the edge. I think a neck-and-neck fight that's going to produce another welterweight contender in a very deep LFA 170 division. Co-main event, 185-pounders, 8-1 Ian Hinshaw, Colorado State Wrestling Champion. I mean, a physical beast. 2 submissions, 1 knockout. I was live in person when he won his LFA debut main event with the inverted Kimura. Going to be taking on Daniel Madrid. Madrid 13-5. He's won 6 of his last 7. Coming off a loss to Alex Nicholson. He has 11 wins by submission. Both guys are going to look to get this to the ground. It's going to be can Heinisch really perform in the top position? Is he able to effectively incorporate his ground and pound, or does he get caught up in some sort of submission? I think that's really where this fight is won and lost. Heinrich is the bigger, more physical party, but will the experience bite him? You have the interim featherweight title on the line in the main event. Taekwondo stylist 7-1 Thon Lee, who we've seen on The Ultimate Fighter and Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, 3 straight wins by knockout. Even though it was an exhibition, he knocked out Andreas Quintana. He's knocked out Alex Black and Lazar Stoyanovich, who all 3 are phenomenal strikers, but how will he handle the grappling of Bobby Wolfman Moffitt? 6 wins by decision, a 10-2 record, back-to-back decision wins, wanting to get another stoppage. He has 1 knockout with the 6 submissions. Moffitt training out there at the MMA lab. You gotta kind of favor the grappler in some of these exchanges, especially since we don't know what Lee is going to look like against someone that's wanting to put him on the ground. Heard Thon Lee's been training at a Team Alpha Male, 2 great camps, an exciting featherweight bout headlining LFA 31 from Phoenix, Arizona. Not to mention, as we were talking about it, you do have still Saturday night. Let's get into it. Bellator 192. And just for the record, I don't know what the Paramount Network is. It's been advertised. It's on the posters. My DirecTV DVR right now on the 16th, 4 days before the fight we're recording this show, still tells me when I go to the guide, Spike HD, the Spike High Def channel. So I don't know what Paramount is. I still see cops all the time. But nonetheless, you have Bellator kicking off 2018 with Bellator 192, and I gotta say I'm kind of scared, because when I look at Tapology and I look at ShareDog to get the fight lineups, both of them have the main event of Quinton Rampage Jackson versus Chael Sonnen. Yes, that bout is happening. It is the official kickoff, the first fight to the Bellator 2018 Heavyweight Grand Prix. Finally, we'll have a Bellator Heavyweight Champion when this is all said and done. But how dare Bellator diminish the value of the greatest title fight they have ever put together? I understand the fuckery of wanting to put the biggest stars in the forefront, and Bellator obviously believes that's Rampage and that's Sonnen. But just the complete lack of respect that even Bellator shows towards Douglas Lima. When you look at Douglas Lima, Patricio Pitbull Freire, you talk about those 2 guys really being at the forefront of their divisions, talking about being in the top 10 in the world. I don't know if everybody is sold yet on Rafael Carvalho, but I can tell you that Douglas Lima, Patricio Pitbull, to hardcore fans, to real people in the MMA world, are legitimate world champions, and I think having a non-title fight, again, ahead of a world title fight, the most legitimate world title fight that Bellator has ever had, when we're talking about Roy McDonald and Douglas Lima, it just diminishes with it. And I mean, you look at a ranking system like what Tapology has, and you have McDonald rank as number 7 in the world, Lima rank as number 12 in the world. This would be the biggest fight that Bellator has ever put together, but we're going to put 2 guys past their prime in the main event. You don't know how healthy Rampage is, how much he really wants to. You don't know what Sutton's going to look like, a little bit flabbier, up a division. They're both not heavyweights. They did not perform well in their last fight. And judging off of what we saw in the last fight, you have to believe the takedowns, the wrestling, Chael Sonnen will be able to enact his game plan and beat Rampage. Rampage still has the power. Anything can happen, and it'd be so much fun to see Chael get knocked out. Douglas Lima, Rory McDonald, the real fight to concentrate on, the real big fight that Bellator is having. Lima has so much power, good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, devastating leg kicks. Will he be able to take advantage of the hurt nose? Will he be able to leg kick McDonald? McDonald ran through a Paul Daly that gave Douglas Lima problems. The better ground game, the more technical fighter is Rory McDonald. But the power and the punches and the kicks that Douglas Lima possess, they are game-changing. He has legitimate power. We are talking about a huge welterweight. This fight is neck and neck and oh so close for who will walk away as the Bellator welterweight champion. Not to mention at lightweight, this card also has Michael Chandler versus Goichi Yamauchi. I don't know what's going on with Brett Premise. Where is our lightweight rematch that we would expect with Chandler? Yamauchi was able to out-grapple, choke out Adam Piccolotti last time out. This is a giant jump up in competition. This is obviously, to me, a number one contenders fight. I know that down the road at Bellator 194, you're having the Derek Campos versus Patricky Pitbull rematch, but I would like to see the Chandler Yamauchi winner go on to fight Brett Premise for a world title. So much potential in Chandler, so much potential in Yamauchi. I almost got to go with Yamauchi in this one, for we don't know what you're going to get out of Chandler. He does look a little undersized. He does have some definite holes in his game. Look for the Japanese-Brazilian to shock the world. We talked to Henry Corrales earlier. Can he turn it into a brawl against Georgi Karahanian? Karahanian, I think, wants this fight on the ground, but I don't know how he gets it there, seeing how Corrales was able to deal with the grappling of Noad Lahet. Let's look for a big performance from Henry Corrales. The card opens up with Aaron Pico in a huge test. He looked good in his featherweight debut, knocking out a bantamweight. But now, again, Bellator throwing Pico into the lion's den, taking on Shane Christian. And Christian holds a win over Bellator vets. He has been a stoppage machine. I believe six of his 8 stoppages by submission. Got a pair of knockouts in there. A legit featherweight. Aaron Pico getting tested right away. Bellator, really showing their faith in this kid, in his abilities and his skills. This would be a big win. You look at Krickner, he is ranked 24th out of featherweights in California. You think about California, though, it is a huge MMA scene. Getting that from Tapology, a kid that's fought in WSOF, fought in Bellator. Yes, he's 1-1 in his last 2, but so is Pico. It's another big test. Then you look at the prelim card. You got, I'd say, a couple people I'm interested to see what they have. You got Cron Gracie taking on turning professional. He was ranked number 2 in California as a welterweight amateur, Devin Brock. Can't wait to see that one. Also, undefeated Jose Campos with a big jump up in competition, taking on Jaime Gonzalez, who last time we saw him was in the co-main event of Bellator in Israel, now down on the prelims for Bellator 192. Undefeated Roosevelt Roberts, Tommy Aragon far down there on the card. That one's interesting, not to mention the guy that we're going to get to talk to next. Ian Butler's going to take on undefeated Joey Davis, who we're about to talk to. Welcome in right now, Bellator 192's Joey Davis. How you doing, sir?
All right, man. Just enjoying my Jamba Juice right now.
Oh, what flavor are you drinking?
White gummy bear, man, with a little bit of daily vitamins and the 3G energy, man. I need it all.
Is this a special treat or something normal with your diet?
Well, I've been working hard, man, so I'm going to go give me something special today. I call it the special treat, man. The special fall.
Nice. Every once in a while, you got to reward yourself, right?
Yes, you do, man. Yes, you do.
So how are you feeling? How's camp been going? Heading into taking on Ian Butler at Bellator 192.
Man, camp's been rough, man. I had a guy who called me out. I don't even know why. It'll be some black-on-black crime. And camp's rough, man. I'm taking it very serious because I don't like to get called out by anybody, period. So if you're going to call me out, you got to deal with me now. And so I've been pushing my body to the limit. Nothing's new. Something I've been doing since I was a kid. But now I'm just sharpening my mind because I'm 24 years old now. So I'm turning into a man. And that's it, man. Just sharpening up my tools, putting my body through a stringent pain, more pain than I ever felt in my life, and so I can be very intense when I get out there, man.
Was it unexpected that you got a call out this soon into your career?
Yeah, but, I guess because, the record, everybody want to see what's the hype about, or if I even have any hype, or whatever it is. But, I ain't the one to play with, man. I'm sure not the one. When it comes to competing and fighting and winning, I am not the one to play with, man. Period.
In my research,
especially with my money on the table.
In my research, talking about you competing, you've been competing since you were 5 years old with wrestling, with football, with athletics. Does that translate over, having competed so long, to not having nerves with fighting?
No, I'm still human, man. I get extremely nervous in a cage, man, because, I don't like the fact that you get hit once and it can change the whole fight, or you can get knocked out. At least in boxing, they give you 10 seconds to get up. MMA, you get hit, you fall. This guy's already on top. So I'm extremely nervous for that type of stuff. And because, like in wrestling, you got to beat me 3 periods, or you got to get me pinned. In fighting, you get hit once, and you never know, it could be over. So it's just something I'm just getting prepared for and getting my mind ready for it, because anything can happen when you're in the cage, So I'm still nervous. I'm only human. But I'm excited, and I know how hard I work, and I'm going to leave it all on the table no matter what.
Are there some ways you are able to tap into that lifetime of athletic experience you have, and it does play into a positive notion in the cage?
Can you repeat that question, sir?
Are there some things that you're able to pull away from that lifetime of competitive experience that do work in your favor in the cage?
Yeah, I feel like, me competing my whole life, it works in my favor because I'm always going to be in shape, you know what I mean, and things like that. So, yeah, I feel like it does work in my favor. But that one hit can always land.
With this fight, with being called out, have you done anything different in this camp, or I guess anything kind of an involvement added to kind of for your camp?
Nothing new, man. Everything's the same. Just putting my body through pain, man. Getting my body ready for the fight. Sharpening up my mind, sharpening up my tools, but nothing new. Nothing new in the training, man. Just pushing my body to the max, running, training, fighting, grappling, jiu-jitsu, 2 times a day. Whatever I got to do to get this W, I got to do.
Do you study your opponent at all, take a look at him, or do you leave that up to your coaches?
No, I study my opponent. I look at his interviews. I look at the way he talks, how he sounds. Does he have any goals in life, or does he just want to be a fighter? Does he care about his faith? What is it that this dude really want to do? You know what I mean? So why is he calling me out? What's the issue with this dude? So I do look at all that, and I take into consideration that this dude don't. I honestly don't know what he got for me. I'm gonna hurt him bad because he don't have a future. I don't know. He just wants to be a fighter. Me, I got goals in my life, man. I need this money so I can go do other things in my life. So he's in my way, and then I gotta do something about it. Like, I can't even put all the words. Cause it's not a game. It's not a game to me. I'm really from this. I really do this. This is not a game. I don't play fight. I've been fighting since I was a kid. I got to fight for my life. So this is something I don't play with. People take this shit as a game, and they think that it's a game, man. And this is my life. I'm 24 years old, and I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting to get a house. I'm fighting for my mom to move her out of a tent. My mom living in a little bitty-ass tent in the hood. I don't want that no more, This is not a game, and I need this platform to hurt. I got to do it. So, yeah, it's not a game at all.
Well, tell us about some of those goals. You said there's bigger expectations. I've seen quotes where I know you have bigger expectations to become the next big thing. So what's on the immediate platform that Joey DAvis can take care of?
I mean, whatever God has in plan for me. I can't see too much in my future, but I know I have a bright future ahead of me. But I know that I'm not going to be a fighter for long. You know what I mean? I know that for a fact. I'm in it while I'm young and while I can do it. You know what I mean? And so I don't know what God has in plan for me, because I believe in God heavily. and he's been in my life all my life. Because without him, I know I wouldn't have made it. My house been shot up. I've been stabbed at, shot at, and that's just real coming to you right now. So I don't know what's in plan for me. I'm living in the moment right now because I'm pretty happy. I'm a pro athlete. I almost got my degree. I had to put my degree on hold for Bellator so I can, because you only have a small opportunity in life to make money or to be a professional athlete. It's only small percentages of people where I come from become professional athletes, period. So I know the window is very small for me to do that, and I had to take that and jump straight to it. So whatever God has in plan for me, I'm going to follow his ropes as much as I can because that's all I have. My mom did the best she can for me, man. Coming from Compton, my dad did the best he can for me. So now I'm in the world, and I'm ready to be showcased, and it's my time to shine. So I got to do what I got to do it.
You've hit the ground running, obviously, with this MMA career. You started professionally back in 2016. It took a year between the first and second fights. What was that year like for you?
It was a crazy year, man, because you got to listen to the story. When I won my 4th national title and became legendary in the sport of wrestling Division II, becoming the first person ever to win 4 titles in Division II undefeated, that same summer, I came pro. Boom. Then I had to go back to school after my first fight, so when I came back home from Cleveland and I signed pro, my coach immediately took me to Big Bear. Boom. I had a training camp at Big Bear for 3 months to train for my Keith Catrone fight. Didn't have no life, didn't have no smiles, or have no time to party or say this, nothing. I go to fight Keith Catrone. After I fight him, I got to go back to school. Bam. After I go back to school, I didn't have a good semester there where I wanted to. I come back out of school, and then I fight Justin Rosales. So my life is really boring. I hate my life right now, but it's fun. So it's been very busy. But it's part of God's plan. So I'm taking everything serious, man. I don't have no life, and I'm only 24 years old, and I'm doing grown man shit. I can't go to clubs and parties like the way I want to. I can't do the things I want to do with the typical 24 want to. I can't have that childhood, because I'm fighting for my life. And that's why I'm so angry, and I have this ambition in me every day that I have no choice. I got to do it.
What do you do now in this fight? I think we understand now why he called you out. You said it. There is a claim. You do have a name recognition already from your collegiate wrestling days. We found it. That's why you're getting called out. So how does that play into this fight, you think, coming up? He wants to make his name off of you.
Yeah. But he picked the wrong guy, man, because like I said, I'm from the same trenches this kid's from, Ian Butler. I guess he was homeless growing up. He had no background. He had no family, but I am not the one to try to get a name from, man, because I come from the same background, and I'm still in it. Ain't shit changed where I'm from, you know what I mean? I still go to Compton. I'm still from the hood. I still go to Long Beach. I still hang it with the same dude. So he picked the wrong he picked the wrong guy to mess with, and I feel bad for him because, it is what it is. But, hey, he's going to have to find out January 20th, and it's going to be in front of the whole world, and I ain't playing with him.
In that second fight that we got to see you in, you got your first stoppage. How did that feel? The first fight, you scored some knockdowns. You went all 15 minutes. It's a great process. What was it like getting that stoppage, though, in your second fight?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. It was scary because I ain't never really, brutally elbowed people like that in my life yet. We practice it every day. I ain't never really did that like that before, so it was a whole nother monster came out of me. But it opened my eyes and it let me know that this shit is not a game. I would have wished the ref would have stopped it sooner, because them elbows were very vicious with what I was doing to the guy. And the ref told me, in the back, don't stop unless I stop you. And I'm like, damn, this is the craziest sport I've ever been in my life. This is not a sport. This is brutal, man. This is crazy. But it changed me, man. I'm a whole nother person. I'm more vicious. I don't give a fuck no more. I tell you that much. It's changing me to a whole nother person, like an animal. When I see blood, I feed from it. It gives me energy or some shit. It's like a shark attack or something. It's not cool at all. But I love it. I embrace it, and this is the only time I get to take all my frustration out on a human being. Because I don't really do good with humans. Me and humans don't do well. There's a lot of haters in the world, a lot of jealousy. A lot of people don't have what you have, and they hate on you about it, bro. That sits in my stomach how you can hate on human beings when you can go do it yourself, bro. And a lot of motherfuckers hate in this world, and I don't really fuck with humans, and it is what it is. But I'm not like a bad people person or anything like that. It's just a lot of people in this world are very shady, and I didn't see it all, man. Shady dudes in this world, and this is the only opportunity where I get to take all my frustration out on a human being.
You are right about that. But I know there's good people. You have them in your life. There's a team that you've been part of for a long time now, the Body Shop. What is it like with the McKees? I know that they're part of your actual family. What is it like having such a close-knit group that you work with in your MMA training?
If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. Antonio is like a god to me, man. He teaches me right from wrong. He's not perfect himself, but he ain't never steered nobody wrong or done nobody wrong that I've seen in my life. So him and my father, I have two father figures. I have my real dad and I have Antonio. So it's really hard on me because I can't really fuck up. I don't have no time to mess up or they're going to be on me. And Antonio will kill me. And my dad's the type of person that will hurt you with words. Like my dad's not a physical person like Antonio. No, my dad's like an emotional dude. He'll kill you with words. And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt my dad because without my dad, I would be dead, period. I would have been gangbanging. Nobody would never hear me. So I have two father figures, and I have the creator of all, who's always in my head as well. So I don't really have time to mess up. I walk around. I'm a pretty angry kid. I am an angry. I have a lot of issues, and I'm dealing with them, and I'm learning every day how to deal with them. And the only person that can talk to me is my dad and Antonio. Ain't another man can tell me what to do because I almost been perfect my whole life. I went to college, had a perfect career. I don't really I try to do everything perfect. I got like OCD. I got issues. I try to be perfect, and that's where I always go wrong because ain't nobody perfect in this world. But I want to do everything so right that nobody can tell me nothing, and it's only two people that can talk to me, and that's real. And if they can't get to me, it's going to be a lot of issues in this world. So I just keep calm, and I just pay attention and I learn from those two as long as I can while they still here. My dad's sick, and it hurts me every day because I know that he ain't going to be here too long. But it is what it is, man. It's the way the world is.
I feel like if we're describing Joey Davis, we're going to come up with passion, intensity, and focus.
Oh, yeah. That's me right there. You just named it, man. You got to have those in this world, or you won't make it.
Same night you fight, main event, your weight class, the world title is on the line. How much attention will you be paying to that fight because they're in the spot that you eventually want to be in?
I'm going to be paying attention to him with ETIs, man, because I love watching Lima. I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of Roy McDonald. I'm just a big fighting fan. I wasn't always going to be a fighter. I was always just watching it on TV, and now I'm in it, which is crazy. So I'm going to be watching it with ETIs, big eyes, and learning. I'm going to pick from them as much as I can. I am not in a rush to be a champion right now. I've been a champion my whole life. But I've never had time to sit back and learn from another person. So now I'm just learning, man, and learn the game as much as I can before it's my time to shine. And it's only a matter of time when God's going to put me in the spotlight. And I don't think right now I'm ready to be in the spotlight. I have a lot of learning to do. I have a lot of mental parts to learn about because my mental ain't there yet all the way. I got a lot of issues. I get angry because I'm mad at the world sometimes. I don't understand some things. But a lot of 24-year-olds don't understand things. So I'm only human. But I'm going to be watching Lima with ETIs.
How did you choose fighting then if it wasn't on your radar to compete in it?
It chose me. It chose me, man. To be honest with you, I won my fourth title. I came home, like I said, from school, and then my coach said, hey, I got a contract for you. Do you want to do it? Yes or no? You only got a small opportunity. You going to take it or not? And I didn't have time to go, I want to call you back. I didn't have time. I said, yeah, fuck it, boom. Signed the contract. I was scared, but I'm still in it. I'm scared now. I don't want to get knocked out in front of my fans. So it is what it is, and I had to do it.
It was truly awesome getting to talk to you. Joey Davis, thank you for the time so much. Bellator 192.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Quick bit of Bellator news to throw out. The promotion has formally announced the addition to the broadcast team. No, this is not a repeat, but now they've added another guy, Jay Glazer, and Fox MMA insider who you've seen working with tons of top NFL guys, tons of top MMA guys, who's on the HBO show Ballers with The Rock. Jay Glazer will now be part of the Bellator broadcast team, joining Big John, Mauro Ranallo, Jimmy Smith, Jen Brown, and sometimes Chow Sutton. Bellator 192 is what we've been talking about. Like this main card, 4 very good fights at the top of it, one very intriguing, and it has to be a stat card to be taking on UFC 220. Some cards want to say they're double main events, but when was the last time the light heavyweight title did not headline a UFC event that it was on? Well, it only co-main events when it does so to the heavyweight title. Star power kind of up in the air about this one. I really believe that the fans cannot get out of their mind the sight of John Jones knocking out Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier kind of hiding, being able to get back in a groove, serving as the co-main event, taking on Volkan Ozdemir. The main event, we understand this. It's a banger. The 2 best boxers that we have in the heavyweight division, Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, vicious knockout artists. They're going to throw hands. Can Miocic's wrestling be that underlying X factor? I don't know. It was not able to be for Anthony Hamilton against Ngannou. Ngannou has been a freak of nature that it will not surprise me at all if his vicious knockout power comes through one more time. First round knockout, somebody goes down, and new, and still, what's it going to be? I think Ngannou is made to take over the UFC right now. He's that personality, he's that icon that everyone's clinging to. If not, Miocic becomes the greatest heavyweight of all time. It's been a while since I've doubted Stipe, but I think we have a new world champion coming with Francis Ngannou. Light heavyweight division, it is very hard to knock out Daniel Cormier. We saw that John Jones finally was able to do it. Did that crack the chin? Is there a chink in the armor? If so, Ozdemir takes the title, shocks the world, and we have a world heavyweight champion from Switzerland before we have one from Sweden. That would change the whole game for MMA in Europe. If not, if that vicious knockout power does not land early, Daniel Cormier will blanket his way to another title defense. I truly believe that. A double main event, though. The heavyweight title and the light heavyweight title of the UFC, the titles of the world, on the line. Not to mention, you have undefeated Shane Burgos, who I've loved his boxing style and what he's done in his first 2 UFC events. This is how you make a star, putting him on pay-per-view, taking on Calvin Kattar, who has been equally as impressive so far in a couple UFC outings. That featherweight, unranked featherweight fight with big implications. Massachusetts versus Jersey, gonna be a throwdown. Kattar came in, surprised everyone, taking a decision from Feely, coming out of the Sit-Yotong camp under Mark Delagrade, a technical striker. This one is going to be a lot of fun on the feet. You got to figure that John Vellante is going to want to keep his light heavyweight bout with Francimar Barbosa on the feet. This one's going to be ugly. Vellante, if he gets too wild, he gets tagged, will lose. But you keep thinking he is the favorite, that he will come through in New York. Thomas Almeida takes on Rob Font. And again, you got 2 decorated, talented, tactical strikers. At some point, to become a real threat in this division, Almeida's going to have to bring it together, because Font has been. Font, though, got trapped in a guillotine in his last fight after looking so clean. This one is another fight that will be fun on the feet. I like the Brazilian. You've got, making his debut, Brandon Davis from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, a technical striker, taking on Kyle Boniak. Boniak, good striking, good grappling, a little more well-rounded. fun scrap. In the welterweight division, Sabah Mahasi versus ultra-talented athlete and judo black belt Abdul Razak Al Hassan. You got flyweights, Dustin Ortiz versus Alexandre Pantoja, the former RFA champion. A battle of Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series vets Dan Iggy and Julio Arce. A fun little card with a lot of Contender Series people put together for this 25-year anniversary. Some of these fights I think are unheralded. You have a lot of potential with Cater versus Burgos. A lot of potential for huge highlights with Almeida versus Font. Don't sell Ortiz versus Pantoja short. Good to see Matt Bessette getting his opportunity. The CES featherweight champion taking on Enrique Brazula. Bessette is a lot more volume, but it can be detrimental if he gets stuck on his back, has a good submission game. But look for big things, I believe, from Matt Bessette on the feature Fight Pass prelim. In the women's division, Marianne Moraes takes on Jamie Moyle. Moyle with a big opportunity here. She's been scrappy. She's shown a lot of leaps and bounds of improvement. Moraes has been training in Chicago with Mike Valley. Can't wait to see what her striking is going to look like. Already a very talented boxer who was a coach for the Ukrainian women's national team. Kicking off the card, this is sure going to be a grappling fest. Ishmael Makalev taking on Gleison Tebow. What will Tebow look like? It's been a while since we've seen him. I wonder if Makayev will have the deeper gas tank and be able to grind this one out, going with the Russian in a slight edge there in Boston. UFC 220. I don't know if the card stacks up as good as some of the more recent pay-per-views when you go 1 through 12, but when you go 1 through 12, you have the potential to see some really big excitement. Bellator with Bellator 192 has an 18-fight card. When you go 1 through 18 and 1 through 12 here, I still think the slight better value is the UFC card because of the caliber of what the prelims look like. But only time will tell who wins the war, who has the bigger live crowd, who gets the better ratings, how many pay-per-view buy rates do you get. But with LFA, Bellator, and the UFC this weekend, I can sure tell you that there is going to be a lot of fun watching fights this weekend. UFC news this week. The biggest news that happened is Robert Whittaker is injured and out of UFC 221. That is sad for the Australians there. Still a pay-per-view going down, though. Now an interim middleweight title fight, of course, will happen because, we didn't just have a middleweight title fight or an interim middleweight title fight or a guy vacate the middleweight title. But with pay-per-views, we must have title fights. So now, after losing to Robert Whittaker, Yoel Romero jumps back into the title picture and will take on Luke Rockhold, the former UFC and Strikeforce world champion. Interesting one there for UFC 221. According to Dana White, fighters need to make themselves a star. He is looking towards making, also the UFC, looking towards making Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson, which it seems like they will eventually strip Conor McGregor, make Khabib versus Tony for the official title, and then if Conor wants to come back, he can fight one of those guys for the real lightweight title once again. That's at least possibility of a plan. The same way that the UFC is hoping to make Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes a reality. That fight definitely needs to happen. On the local scene, don't forget that there's a lot of action January 27th here in New Mexico. Buffalo Thunder, Holmes Boxing presents Cold War 4. You have here locally in Albuquerque, King of the Cage with Horizon. Then February 24th, you have up at Buffalo Thunder, the Jackson's MMA Series 24, Roy Sacido versus Jess Martinez in the main event. Someone's always got to go in that one. Along with the same night, the School of Hard Knocks promotion is presenting a Tough Man contest down in Hobbs. Come on, you think you think you're a fighter, you think you're better than fighters. Go strap on some 16-ounce boxing gloves, prove it, have a chance to win $1,000. Again, that's School of Hard Knocks Promotions Tough Man Contest in Hobbs. One more local note for you. Legacy Boxing will be having their first event of 2018, March 17th, out at Route 66 Casino. Josh put Bull Torres in the main event. Full article of what is currently on the card up at CageMinds.com. Keep up with Cage Minds on social media. Facebook, Cage Minds Combat Sports News. Twitter and Instagram, it's Cage Minds MMA. Shout out one more time to Mac10 MMA CK10. Check them out on Facebook. And thanks for tuning in this week.